Hello, and welcome to today's episode of The Ways of the World, where we focus upon a different country and culture and discover the different ways of the world through the lenses of Villanova students and faculty. These Villanovans have studied abroad and are here to share their experiences. I'm your host, Ava Petrosky. Today, we will travel to Morocco. I have with me here senior at Villanova University, Kenza Idrissi, and you spent a whole semester, your spring semester abroad last year in Rabat, Morocco.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here today, Kenza.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Tell me about Morocco.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Morocco was definitely somewhere I always wanted to study abroad in. To preface too, both of my parents are from Morocco, and so I heard just like living in the diaspora, kind of their experiences. But I always had a vision of going to Morocco and learning about its culture and people on my own terms. But also I do study Arab and Islamic studies at Villanova with also political science. So it just made a lot of sense to go to Morocco. There's not that many, I guess, destinations to go to study, Arab and Islamic studies. So yeah, it just felt like a natural fit.
Is it a major or a minor?
It's a major.
A major. Yeah. Do you study the language?
Yes. Yeah. So I took 2 years of modern standard Arabic, so written. And I have some background in the Moroccan colloquial Arabic. So it was pretty easy to navigate kind of Morocco once I got there. And then I continued on to study Arabic while I was in Morocco, which was a lot more intensive, but it was more like applicable because you were able to go out and buy things using the language, go out and meet new people, or even just read signs across Morocco. So it was just super helpful.
Do you find that your language proficiency increased while you were there?
Yeah, when you learn language through a textbook, it's a little different, right? Like you're not applying it to the real world. When you're there, you're actually put in, there's some pressure, right? Like when you're meeting someone and someone's asking you a question, you kind of have to use all the skills that are in your brain at that moment in a short amount of time. I think it really did help my proficiency. And I think most importantly, it built my confidence in the language, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about the program and the courses that you were taking?
Yeah. So I took through CIE, and I did the Arabic Language and Culture program. A lot of the classes that I was taking were focusing on language, one on culture, and then one on religion. And then the really cool part about my program was that I had an internship component. So I was able to kind of get out of the classroom, which is exactly what study abroad is for, and work with an urban planner who was doing a lot of the kind of design, infrastructure, development, looking into that and researching that in Morocco. So I was able to actually engage with some of her students in Morocco, and it kind of built up into this research project when I was helping one of her graduate students looking at migration at the intersection of like urban planning, which was really amazing. And that kind of just inspired further research that I'm now taking up at Villanova. So it just all kind of connected for me. It was an amazing experience and I learned so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about the culture?
Yeah. Like I mentioned, I grew up in Moroccan culture, right? Both of my parents are from there. They immigrated here once they got married. So I kind of always grew up with both American and Moroccan culture. So when I got to go for the first time and not stay with my grandma and kind of stay with a host family, I got to really experience it at a deeper level. The culture of Morocco is just the hospitality is just incredible. My host family was just amazing. The people are always willing to help. I kind of blended in, I guess, a little bit in Morocco, but they could still tell that I was obviously an outsider and kind of a foreigner. So I've never had any problems because people were just so sweet and nice. Morocco is also very diverse. So you have people from the Rif regions, which is up north, and their culture and their traditions are just so different than even my family who from Fez. So just being able to kind of experience its diversity is just really beautiful. And I always say, like, Morocco, you have to really, like, get around different places to truly understand, like, its culture, because it's just so diverse. Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit more about how your family's from Fez, how that culture differs from you studied in Rabat?
Yes. Yeah. So Fez is, it's one of the oldest cities in Morocco, and it's known for having kind of a more, we call it shabi, like it's more of like more like an old school kind of town, right? A lot of people tend to kind of go out of Fez and go into a place like Rabat, which is a lot more urban. That's where you see all the major businesses. It's the capital city. That's where all like the major schools are, universities. So you see a lot of people coming out of Fez and going into Rabat. Rabat was amazing because it didn't seem like much of a jump from the US as much as Fez was, right? Rabat has, all the gyms, and they have all the cinemas, and you're able to kind of see some modern parts of Morocco. Whereas Fez, I obviously I'm biased, but Fez is just so much more homier. You see a lot more of the Shabi culture where people are a little bit they keep more to tradition. There's a milkman that comes every morning, that delivers milk around the neighborhood. So there's a lot more like community aspect.
Yeah.
And you see a lot more like villas versus Rabat, where you see a lot of more like high-rise apartments and things like that.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Were you able to visit your grandma while you were there?
Yeah, I was. So I didn't have classes on Fridays. So if I wasn't traveling around Morocco, trying to experience different cities, definitely there. I was with my grandma.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
She must have loved that.
Yeah, she loved it a lot. Yeah.
Can you tell me about some of the other cities that you went to?
Yeah. So I'll talk about one of my favorites. So I was in Marrakesh. I'm sure a lot of people know what Marrakesh is because it's this very touristy kind of city in Morocco. There's huge bazaars and souks, and people love to shop there. But kind of right off of it is the mountain area, and I stayed in a place called Ourika, and it's just so beautiful. It's a 2-hour drive from Marrakesh. The people there are just one of the kindest that I've seen, and they live in like the mountain area. And I stayed in this really nice, cute Riyadh style hotel, and just like the balconies just like overlooking this like really beautiful mountain region. And I've noticed a lot of differences there, like even in the way that they talk. A lot of people don't know that in Morocco there is a very big indigenous population of people, and so their language is very different than the Arabic that I speak. So just figuring out seeing how I was able to communicate with them, and also just learn more about their culture and how they feel about what's going on politically in Morocco, what's going on even just socially. It was really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some must-see landmarks that if someone were to travel to Morocco, you would really recommend they see?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would definitely say, Fez's old city, like the old Medina, I would say is the number one kind of thing anyone should see in Morocco. It's just so much history, so much culture. The oldest university in the world is there. And it's just, the architecture is just beautiful. You can assume it's like this kind of like, people would say kind of like this Arabian kind of style of architecture that you see across Morocco. But I would say Fez for sure. There's other things like the Hassan II Mosque in Casablanca. It's one of the biggest. I think we're number 3. I'm not fully sure. It's just this huge, like when I got there, I've seen pictures, but when you get there and you're just standing next to it and you're just like, look, it's just humongous. And it's right off the beach in Casablanca. I think it's just a really good site to see. And they also do a lot of tours, so you get to learn a little bit more about the construction of it, why Morocco invested so much money in it, and also learn more about like Islam and kind of how it guides people in Morocco.
How many Villanovans were with you on this program? Because I know it wasn't a Villanova program
it wasn't
itself.
a Villanova program.
Right.
Yeah, so there was no Villanovans.
Yeah. Just one.
Just me. I think it's also important to note, like, I'm one of 4 people in Arab and Islamic Studies, and so the pool is just tiny at in Villanova. I was actually just, it was just a program that just got a bunch of people from across the United States, and it was actually just me and one other person, in fact.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yep. So my semester was just us. We had some cultural peers, so like Moroccan students who were like we were hanging out with and doing some classes with. But yeah, it was just me and this girl named Madeline, and we had the best time ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where was she from?
She is from around Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it was great. Like to meet someone who wasn't from Villanova. I mean, I think that was very important to me. I actually studied abroad in Ireland my freshman year, and that was an amazing experience, but it was through a Villanova program. So I had that kind of bubble setting where it kind of like, you know, it kind of insulated my experience a little bit. So I knew that if I was going to study abroad a second time, I really wanted something that would push me like to really like be independent and figure out my goals and things like that.
Yeah. Did you ever feel homesick while you were away?
Yeah, no, surprisingly. I mean, a lot of people, when they heard that I was going to Morocco, knowing I was Moroccan American, they were like, oh, this is like, you're going back home. And, you know, and I kind of let that like rhetoric kind of get into my head a little bit. And so I thought I was going to have like 6 months of just pure enjoyment. I definitely got homesick. I mean, I think, even though I had family there, living with a host family is not easy, right? Like you're in their bubble and you experience their life. And so some of the things that you kind of really appreciate about like your life here, it's like you have to let some things go. And like, you know, in Morocco, like water use is not the same as in America. So like taking 2 showers in a day is just it's not acceptable there. So I had to like, there was a lot of navigating around norms that I didn't think I would have had to navigate.
Right.
But like as a whole, the experience like really taught me to be flexible. Like I feel like I'm able to like, you can drop me in a place and I could kind of figure it out, which I think is a really great skill to have, especially now graduating and going out into the world. And I want to do field research. I want to work in the Middle East and North Africa. So it makes sense that I'm able to get that skill now.
Yeah. I want to know, did you do any side travel outside of Morocco while you were there?
Yes. So I got an opportunity, me and my friend Madeline, we ended up traveling to Granada, Spain. I mean, a lot of it is because there's still so much, I mean, Al-Andalus, which was, you know, kind of part of Morocco and then also Spain. Like there's a lot of history in Spain. So if you go to Spain, there's certain parts where it literally looks like you're in Morocco. It's kind of insane. And so, you know, my friend Madeline was really into the whole architecture. She's an art history major. And then I was super interested in like the urban planning field. So we were like, we have to go and just see it for ourselves. We did a lot of like walking tours, but also just like sitting around and just like seeing about how, you know, how Spanish culture can like intermingle with like really old like Andalusian roots, which is like super cool. But a lot of, I think me and Madeline both had the really deep intention of staying in Morocco for most of the time. We had some ideas about going into Europe, but we really wanted to just explore like Morocco and its diversity. So a lot of times we were just traveling into different cities, different villages, meeting different people. Madeline had no Arabic proficiency, so it was also important for us to like go to places where she can actually develop those skills as well.
Can you tell me a little bit about the cuisine?
Yes, yeah. I mean, Moroccan cuisine is like, I mean, a lot of this is like, I'm biased, but I think it's amazing. I mean, Gordon Ramsay rated the number 1 in the world. But yeah, I mean, like I said, like every city has its own like staple, right? Fez is like very known for like its couscous, tagine. I mean, there's a big tagine culture, which is just this like sort of clay pot that gets like that kind of cooks meals over like an extended period amount of time. So if you go to like any major kind of city and you go to like less urban areas, more rural areas, you'll see these huge kind of like eating areas of just like charcoal kind of fireplaces with huge pots, like huge clay pots. It usually mixes like vegetables and like a protein. And that's a staple in Morocco. So you could end up eating that like every day if you wanted to. But I think Morocco is becoming a little bit more modern, and there's been a lot of like more like variety of things. So you'll still find kind of like acai bowls and smoothie places and things like that. But I would say that it's more concentrated in those urban areas like Rabat. But when you get to kind of, me and Madeline really loved going to different cities that were a little bit more rural, because we were able to experience kind of like the very traditional meals of Morocco. So, yeah.
What was your favorite meal that you had?
Favorite meal? I mean, I've never been a big tagine fan. I mean, growing up, you're kind of like any ethnic food, you're kind of like, ugh, like, Mom, why'd you make this again, kind of thing. But when you're like in Morocco, because you're surrounded by people who are eating it all the time, like you kind of want to be a part of that. So I would say that, yeah. Yeah.
Can you describe a little bit more for me what is in tagine?
Tagine, yeah. So it starts off with like a base of kind of like olive oil and kind of herbs. And then typically like one of my favorite ones consists of just like potatoes, vegetables, peas, just a variety of vegetables. And tagine is known for one of those dishes where you just throw a bunch of things into a pot and it comes out really good. So my host family, tagine would be a staple where like if you just have a bunch of vegetables laying around and you have like a chicken or beef in your freezer or something, you literally just put it all in, and it tastes amazing. It's slow and it takes a lot of time and effort, but it's really, really nice to have experienced tagine in Morocco, because in the United States, if you're cooking on like a gas stove, it's just not going to be the same as if you got it from like a charcoal kind of traditional way of cooking it. So it was great to experience that.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about living with your host family?
Yeah. So, I'm not gonna lie, it was difficult. Like it was. I loved them, and they were an amazing family. And like I mentioned before, Moroccans are just so like the hospitality is just out of this world. And I lived with a couple. So my host mom, my host dad, and then I had 3 host siblings. So I had a girl that was a little bit older than me, a boy who was in high school, and then one that was in middle school. So I got to kind of kind of ask them a little bit of questions, kind of their experiences on those different age ranges. And then there was also a host grandma and then some host cousins. So I was able to really experience that big Moroccan family culture, which my parents had like 7 siblings and then 8 siblings, and they've always told me like about their experiences. Like, and Moroccans tend to be big, like have big families. So I've always wanted to get that experience. So when they were placing me with someone, I said, yes, like give me a family that has like the most amount of siblings, the most amount of cousins and grandmas and things. It was great. I mean, like I said, it's always an adjustment. Like I think at Villanova, and I think in the United States, we tend to really value personal time, personal space. Like we're very intrinsic. Like Morocco is a very collectivist society. So everyone does things together. So privacy, my definition of privacy is not the same as theirs. So it took some time to adjust, coming back from school and having to share spaces, having to wait for a shower or, things like that. But that taught me like the real realities of, not just issues. I think people study abroad a lot to see kind of like the issues in society. And for sure, I saw that in Morocco. But these are norms, right? Like they don't see showering one day is a bad thing, right? Like that's just their normal. So it was good for me to adapt to something else rather than, be adaptive, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Can you describe Morocco for me in 3 words?
Are they supposed to be connected? Or
however, whatever 3 words you would like.
Well, I'm going to have to say diverse. I think diverse is like the biggest thing. Diverse, progressing for sure, and rooted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit for me?
Yeah, I think I talked about diverse. It's just you have to explore all of it. I say particularly rooted because I think as much as my other word was progressing, Morocco is progressing, right? And if you look at the economics of it or the politics of it, you can see that some of the issues that Morocco has been facing, they've been doing a lot of really good things at, but what has not changed is that they're rooted in who they are and the people and this collectivism. No matter how urban or how, forward, I guess, Morocco will get, they will stay rooted in kind of community. And I think that's just so beautiful. And that's something that, we don't get to see a lot in the United States. And something that I really appreciate. And that's something that the reason why I want to go back. Yeah.
Can you tell me what was your flight pattern to get to Morocco? Okay. How long was that flight?
The flight was about 7.5 hours.
Okay.
Flying direct. A lot of people do fly kind of into Europe first and then go into Morocco, which can make it a lot longer. But yeah, it was a pretty decent. It's like from here to California, so it wasn't too bad.
Right. Where'd you fly out of?
I fly out of Newark Airport.
Okay.
Yes.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all.
No. Okay, here's a good question for you. If you could write a book about your experience in Morocco, what would you title it?
The Morocco that I see. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Okay. I kind of use something I wrote a poem about Morocco in Arabic.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and that was the title of my poem, where I kind of talk a little bit about my experience in Morocco. And I wrote it in Moroccan Darija, which is the language. And I talk a little bit about kind of like living in kind of 2 worlds, living in America, but then also having this kind of like idea of what Morocco has always been kind of in the back of my brain. But after going to Morocco and just reflecting a lot, I took a step back and really just wanted to understand kind of like, what does it mean to kind of like build expectations for a place that you don't live in, but you feel so rooted in, identity-wise. And I think Morocco just like surpassed any kind of expectation. It obviously kind of diminished some expectations because you always have this like expected reality of what something might be. But I just talked a little bit about how, Morocco is a place that I have yet to kind of discover. And I said, the Morocco that I see, right? You seeing something is constant, right? You're constantly perceiving a place because it's constantly changing.
Right.
And so you allow for that change rather than kind of just perceive it in the past, in kind of like a past tense. So I kind of just always try to leave like open opportunity to learn more.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Was this a poem that you wrote for class or just for fun?
So I wrote it so the Global Interdisciplinary Studies program at Villanova has a Writing in Tongues publication.
Yes.
So while I was in Morocco, I wrote it and then submitted it for the last year's publication.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could describe for me one picture that you took during your trip that it's one of your favorite pictures.
Oh,
what
yes.
would it be?
Okay, I do have one. So me and my friend Madeline, we were sitting down. So Chefchaouen is called the Blue City. So if you've ever seen pictures of Morocco and this really beautiful blue town. And we actually hiked up to the top for sunset, and you see all these people kind of sitting, waiting for the sun to set. And it's just a beautiful atmosphere. There's a guy coming around with tea and kind of pastries. And so we took a picture, and I took that picture and I actually sent it to my parents. And you wouldn't believe it, my mom, when she was my age, had worked on that kind of little seating area,
Oh
like
my
this brick
goodness.
little wall. And she said, you have no idea. I volunteered to kind of build that back when she was in late high school, kind of early college time.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was just a very full circle experience to have sat on the foundation that my mom had built.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So when I heard that, like me and Madeline just ended up just sitting there and just thinking about kind of like how we want to build our foundations for our lives. And it was such a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
And so I look at that picture quite a bit sometimes.
Aw,
Yeah.
that's powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Kenza, we're just about to wrap up.
Yes.
I loved hearing about this.
Yes.
At Morocco. Can you tell me a word of advice that you would give to someone who wants to travel to Morocco?
I would say go with an open mind. Don't go with perceptions of what Morocco will be or what you will gain from it. Also kind of leave the perceptions of what a study abroad experience will look like. I know people study all around the world. There's a lot of people study in Europe. It's never going to be the same. And I think take each day to learn something new, and kind of like leave room for kind of seeing, I guess.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Kenza.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
I loved hearing about Morocco.
Thanks.
Thank you for traveling with me today. I'm your host, Ava Petrosky. I'll see you next time.